Greetings, one and all, to the most cursed, most cringiest corner of the internet. A YouTube channel content creator actively alienating everyone in both the analog and digital world. Welcome and good evening, wonderful dice of all alignments. I am Lunar D8. This is Let's Play Deluge Sermon for the Dead. There was no way I could read all that. The nights had been growing steadily warmer. A sickening stench of decomposing leaves lingered in the air as I made my way to school. And while I tried desperately to recall the dream of a whimsical pudding angel that had been torn violently more than 20 minutes ago, I felt thankful. Thankful that the mornings were growing brighter again, no longer forcing me to make this journey through the pitch darkness. And with these thoughts in mind, I became aware of a drifting presence, circling around me, scanning its environment with this trepidation of a child. I turned around. Behind me stood a young woman no older than 25. From her sophisticated style and demeanor, I could immediately make out that she wasn't far from around here. And the second she noticed me, she approached slowly at first, but more confidently once she picked up on my friendly nature. Excuse me, could you help me? I'm looking for a place called Fairview Apartments. Could you tell me where that is? Of course I can. There was a panic in her eyes, and I empathized with her as I was not long considered a newcomer in town myself, just as long as she was. Just lost as she was. Soon, however, I'd landed a job in newspaper delivery business, the first job I'd ever held, and it wasn't long before I'd grown to know every street and corner of this deceptively outstretched town. I flashed her a reassuring smile. Fairview, that's not far from here. Just head back up the road, turn left to Central Square, you can't miss it. She let out a sigh of relief. Are you visiting someone who lives here? Visiting? Yes, I'm visiting. Myself. I stared at her in confusion. It's me that lives at Fairview Arts. I just moved in yesterday afternoon, so I forgot the fastest way home. She showed me a silver house key. I really thought I wouldn't get lost this time. Her voice turned melancholic. It's not like I'm unfamiliar with these surroundings, you know. I guess I used to live here as a child until I was around 8 years old, and I've been back through the snow since then. But things have changed. The town has expanded. She stood there for a second, reminiscing, her fluttering blonde hair shining in the early morning sun. Anyway, I need to go home now. I'm not really sure. She smiled. I'll see you around. See you. And then she disappeared just as cautiously as she had arrived. With increased speed, I continued on towards school, fearing that this short delay would once more reinforce my persistent reputation of tardiness. By the time I had reached the ever-cramped office of the Sunday Abbot, I was fully out of breath, and our ever-punctual editor-in-chief sat waiting for me. There you are, Abe. Your irresponsible never ceases to amaze me. Even after pushing back your starting time 9 a.m., still manage to be late every single week. Sometimes I wonder if there's even a point. I interrupted her. What about Mai? She isn't here yet. But Ina had already begun operating, opening the countless boxes that had been dumped haphazardly across the room. Well, at least you're not delaying the dispersal of any important headlines. We've appeared to hit a dull new season. Now that we're waiting on municipal election campaigns to start, it seems that there isn't much to report on. She pouted. Isn't there any political gossip to write about? Nothing. They're keeping their lips sealed. But you just wait until the elections begin. The mud flinging will be out in full force. I'm sure that we're experiencing now is a silence before a storm. There will be plenty of headlines before long. Part 1. Death and the Maiden. The door swung open, and a blonde girl made a hurried entrance. Time for work. Let's do our best today. There, that's an attitude you can learn from Abe. Bet she was 20 minutes late. May, ignoring my comment, had begun leafing through this week's edition of the Sunday Abbot. Cool, Ina. Your piece on the arched marble moth made it to the front page. Who would have thought? Shut up, Abe. Why? Ever since May's edition delivery team, we had worked out ways to distribute the paper efficiently as possible, having regular work hours in the process. And although it was pleasant to free up some time on the weekends, the change had instantly presented Ina the opportunity to slash my already meager wages. I couldn't deny that I was facing a personal financial crisis. Come on, Abe. We'll do the tenement buildings together, then after that we can split up and do the rest of town. After loading our delivery cart with 3 boxes of papers, we made our way in the direction of town. The area beyond the school was sparsely developed, with only a few mansions rising up the line, spiked gates each surrounded by acres of woodland. While I pulled the cart, May looked over the description directory, stopped me at regular intervals, delivered a paper or two at a house that passed by. Can you smell it, Abe? Nature is blossoming. This hardly feels like work now that spring is in the air. Work smells like work, no way to hide it. The scent of fresh printing ink may seem nice at first, but at the end of the day I always have to do washing it with my hands. And I end up smelling like I'm hot off the press far into Sunday afternoon. May smirked. That's how it is, isn't it? But to be honest, I really don't mind the smell. The ink we use has an earthy scent that pairs well with the floral perfume. May, when did you become so metropolitan? She blushed. Don't tease me. Not much later, we arrived at a large residence. Out in their yard, I detected the eager face of clearly awaiting our arrival. There you are, kids, fashionably late as always. Let me read the garbage you're disseminating today. Though not unfriendly, Councilman Leopold, the town's disgraced marquis, always held a close eye on our attempts at journalism. It wasn't long since he himself had been subject to countless headlines publicizing the dealings of the seedy underworld. But recently Leopold appeared to have cleaned up his act. Here you go. Grumbling appreciatively, he browsed through the newspaper. Nothing written about you today? Leopold smiled. No, it seems like Ida has retained her decorum. I don't mind your paper reporting the news, you see. But it's when the line between public and private sphere blurs that I have my reservations about her journalism. It isn't easy being a public figure. It becomes so much harder to indulge when everyone's watching you. You slip up once, make one tiny mistake, and it's magnified 1,000-fold. I nodded compassionately. It's a lonesome endeavor. Do you know what my party has done for me for the upcoming elections? No. They lowered me to the 11th place on the ballot, just out of spite over things that happened in the past. 11th place, what does that mean? It means the end of my political career, that is. My party, ARE, only holds 8 seats in the town, so I have exactly 0 chance of returning to my old position next year. Maybe if you campaigned really hard. Forget about it, it's political homicide. He scowled. Just think of all the free time you'll have. I might need it. To make matters worse, my deadbeat son is returning home this year after dropping out of university. He was majoring in German romantic theater or something equally useless, but even that turned out too demanding for him. And now he can't find a job for the life of him. Can't you kids put him to work delivering papers? Not really, I think our team is pretty much complete. He chuckled. Well, I can't blame you for keeping your distance. He's a real slacker, hasn't worked a day in his life. And still, he'd be the type to consider himself too good for this kind of work. May jumped up. No one is too good to deliver the Sunday Abbot. Never mind. Bernard is his name. You might catch him loitering around town. I hope to have him off my hands soon. We said goodbye to the grumbling marquis and made our way to the edge of town, where a working-class district lay that was littered with council houses. Puppy! We were welcomed by a loud bark. Good morning, Virus. You're up. Early. Virus, here was with me on Saturdays by pulling the cart and protecting me against danger. She reached out to give the dog a pat on the head. But instantly the dog lunged her and sank its teeth deep into her arm. Virus, that reluctantly the dog retreated. Are you bleeding? Please be more careful, Virus. We don't have time to play. Are you okay? Our work proceeded quickly, and it wasn't even lunchtime by the time we ran out of. Why did we suddenly start playing Dark Souls? Virus followed us from a distance. We're going great. Hey, Virus, I'll take the cart. What do you mean protect? You should have no papers left to cover this. Are you sure you'll be safe? Why are we suddenly playing Bloodborne? Don't worry, Abe. I have fun. I don't. What? I don't. That's yeah. I thanked May, and we each went our. Oh, yeah. Was that Big Ben built in a sandcastle? Abbotsford town center isn't large, and as I made way from the letterbox to letterbox, I thought myself that May had truly drawn the short straw by agreeing to cover the suburbs. May, however, appeared to derive a lot more satisfaction from the work than I did, so it seemed fair that she would take on the lion's share of the workload. Suddenly, I picked up a distinct laughter. Look, it's Abe, always the bearer of glad tidings. I glanced in the direction of the sound and made out 2 girls, both of whom attended my high school. This is Naomi. You may know her. She's on the swim team. Naomi acknowledged me with a curt nod of her head. So, what are you girls doing here? Church isn't until tomorrow, right? Of course it isn't, but we're helping with preparations for Sunday service. We're here to do some routine maintenance on the church properties. Can't the church afford to hire specialists for that kind of work? It's just recurring tasks. Old buildings require a lot of upkeep. But please, follow me. I want you to look at something. Okay? What's up? Okay, it looks cool. I like the architecture. As I followed the girls through the main entrance into the nave of the, I could hear the soothing tones of the. That's the boys' choir. They're practicing in the auditorium. I hope you don't mind the sound. She beckoned me onward. We headed down a short staircase and through a narrow corridor that led into a crypt that was situated directly underneath the church. In the faint light, I could make out the walls. They were covered with engravings that appeared worn and faded, as though they had once been exposed to the elements. Rika pointed upward. There should be a light bulb above the door, but it isn't working anymore. Are you tall enough to look behind there? I stretched myself to see over the casing of the door, where I could barely discern a small light socket. I can probably reach it, but it's pretty high up. Can't you just use a stepladder? Naomi giggled. I mean, we could, but just think of all the spiders that live up there. Please help us, Abe, now that you're here anyway. I reached over the door with my hand until I felt the smooth surface of an incandescent bulb. Carefully, I unscrewed it, setting a stream of fine dust pouring downward over my clothes. The bulb came loose. I stepped down and held it to Rika's ear, shaking it so that a rattling sound became clearly audible. A burnt-out bulb, just as I thought. But don't worry. She dug around her uniform pocket. We bought a new one. This one uses advanced light-emitting diode technology. It should last much longer and save the church on electricity. Smirking, I took the bulb from her and carefully screwed it into the socket. When I was nearly done, it began emitting a blinding light. I had to catch myself to retain my balance, as the entire crypt that had been steeped in darkness just a moment ago suddenly became illuminated. There, that wasn't too much trouble, was it? As my eyes grew accustomed to light, I became aware of my surroundings. We were standing inside a windowless catacomb. Large stone slabs covered the walls around us, every one of them inscribed with time-worn glyphs. Some places are better kept in darkness. Oh, not at all. Do you see these stones? Do you know where they come from? They look like gravestones to me. Rika smiled. That would be correct. You should take a look at the dates on them. Some date back to the early 1400s, when this town was still situated on an island. Did you know there used to be a different church on Abbott? It served the congregation up until 1653. Its ruins can still be visited close to the southern point. The old church even had an adjacent graveyard, but I'm afraid that encroaching sea made for watery graves, and the salt water ate the foundations of the church, rotting away the wood and making the stone walls tilt over threateningly. When a large winter storm swept away the cemetery gates, one dark December night, the community decided it was time to build a new and more splendid church on Higher Lane Lane. That's the building we're standing at. Construction began immediately, although work has halted many times in pursuit of new funding. All building supplies had to be transported from the mainland, and when funds ran out, many stones were taken from the old church to continue the project. After 40 years of construction, the new church was completed, and our place of worship was moved to this new location. The dead, however, stayed behind in their old cemetery. There are the remains of our forefathers languish beneath the skeleton of a decrepit chapel, constantly threatened by the washing sea. And the Reverend Kulper and the great-forefather decided that something was to be done. Now that work on the new church was finished, the villagers commenced with the process of moving the dead to the new location. They began with the graves that were in immediate danger of being swallowed by the sea. But, as you can imagine, it was unpleasant work. No one found joy in digging up old bones, and the graveyard relocation project grew in an effort that spanned multiple centuries, often lying still for decades. It wasn't until the beginning of the 20th century that the last of the graves was moved to dry land. Rika glared at us ominously, her ink-black hair glistening in the virgin lamplight. But even then, they say at least a few graves must have been overlooked, their contents swept into endless depths of the ocean. Oh, Abe, I apologize we've been keeping you from your work, and to think that it's almost lunchtime. Won't you have lunch with us? Naomi has packed sandwiches. Come on, Naomi, after our hard work, I say we deserved a break. We'll finish decorating in the afternoon. We climbed back up the stairs and settled among the pews. I made these at home. Please let us share them together. I hope you didn't have other plans for lunch. I shook my head. Usually I don't even get around to eating on days like these. Naomi handed me a sandwich. So how have you been doing, Abe? Are you fully prepared for finals? I grumbled a reply. Oh, and I haven't received your submission for the Easter break yet. Could you hurry and fill one out? We're running short on applicants. I looked up for my sandwich. Easter break. Haven't you seen the notices at school? It's our yearly outing, where we stay at the beach for a few days as a last escapade before final start. We'll hold nightly study sessions, but mainly it will be a carefree vacation. Naomi and I are organizing the committee together. Rika took out a small form from her purse. Please fill that out as soon as possible. You wouldn't want to miss Easter break. And let me know if you think of anyone else who would be interested in attending. As registration is low this year, anyone is welcome, not just graduate students. Will you join us on Easter break? I'd love to. I knew you would. Please fill this out and hand it to me at the earliest possible occasion. I accepted the form, slipping it in my pocket thoughtlessly. I hope you own a pair of swimming trunks. Emphasizing that I really needed to return to work, I thanked the girls and said goodbye. And, with a well-filled stomach, I moved onward through the Saturday streets, which would come alive with the bustle of pedestrians enjoying their weekend. But I couldn't deny that my conversation with Rika and Naomi had stirred a certain anxiety in me. The truth was that finals were rapidly approaching, and my ever-increasing obligations toward the school paper, as well as my leisure approach to life, had not left much time left for study. I resolved half-heartedly to begin preparing that very evening. In the meantime, my work was coming along nicely. In less than an hour, I had managed to complete the houses around Central Square in the shopping district, where very few subscribers lived. When suddenly, hello, I was struck by a strong sensation of déjà vu. It was the same young woman I'd encountered earlier that day, and she appeared just as lost as she had previously been. Good afternoon, out and about again. I am. Thank you for your clear directions this morning. I found my way home in a heartbeat. You're so knowledgeable about the lay of this town. It comes with a job description. I presented her with an issue of the Saturday Abbot. Here, take one. We always have plenty left at the end of the day. A newspaper. Curiously, she looked it over. That's wonderful for a town like this. Are you on the board of editors? Not officially, although I stand in at times. She smiled. Well, it must be exciting with the elections coming up. Thank you so much for this. I'll make sure to get a subscription. Please don't feel obliged to. No, I definitely will as soon as I get home. Which is in that general direction, isn't it? She gestured northward towards the edge of town. I sighed. Follow me, I'll pass by your place in a little bit. Just a few more stops along the way. Oh, thank you, Abe. I got lost again. I knew I shouldn't have taken that right turn at the mini-mart. I followed my course with Marissa trailing behind me until we approached Fairview Apartments. Outside of the main entrance, she turned to me, standing so close that I could feel her breath. You saved me again. I would be lost without you. Please come inside. I'll make you some tea, as I have no other way to thank you. We made our way up the Spartan staircase and through a narrow corridor before entering her flat. Looks very nice. I apologize for causing you so much trouble. Normally I'm very independent. You should realize that. It's just that this is my first time living on my own. Yeah, that can be scary. She wrung her hands nervously. I mean, when I was in college, I lived with roommates in a shared apartment. We were independent, but we divided the chores. I mainly did the laundry, and the other girls would cook and clean. And now that I'm living by myself, it feels like I have to do everything alone. I've been getting lost around town, even though this place is far smaller than the city, but I've also been getting lost in my head. I think it's just that I've had so much on my mind. Just a minute. The tea should be ready. She bounded into the kitchen where I could hear her rattling with teacups, and I waited in the empty studio apartment, which, although neatly finished, still had a certain impersonal feel to it, as though it hadn't fully been made into a home yet. I made Earl Grey. I hope you like it. As it's all, I like Earl Grey. She let out a melancholy sigh. Student life is nothing like the real world, you know. At college, you're sheltered, cared for. You have your path set out for you. But now that's all over, a grand open future beckons me. So why did you come to Abbotsford? Oh, I like this town. I used to live here back when I was very small. Didn't I tell you? I'm not just a freeloading. I have a job, a real job, although I wouldn't be starting it just yet. She grew silent. What kind of job? Oh, I can't tell you, not until next week. Because it's a secret. And I know what you journalists are like. She shivered, giddily. But I have a job. I can't even fathom it. I'm on the fast lane to success. Soon it won't be lukewarm tea, but champagne filling these cups. She broke out in animated laughter, and I felt a strange tingle make its way down the back of my neck. Marissa got up. She walked over to the corner of the room to pick up her shopping bag, which she had discarded thoughtlessly upon entry, and bought out a packet of cinnamon buns. Here, have something to eat. It's past lunchtime. I was about to decline, but she had already handed me a roll, and I saw no polite way to refuse it. I realize you must be on your way, but you won't be able to deliver papers on an empty stomach. After no less than 3 cinnamon buns, I exited Fairview Apartments. The day had progressed, and I was borne down, physically as well as mentally, by the weight of the newspapers that remained in my bag. And though I encountered people sitting in the gardens, basking temporarily in this early spring sun, I vowed solemnly not to be held up until I had delivered the remainder of my route. It wasn't until much later that I came across a slouched-over figure slowly making its way in my direction. Hi, May. How are you getting along? Despite her worn appearance, she flashed me a thin smile. I'm okay, Abe. I worked really hard. I only have the West End left. Virus left more than an hour ago. I think he decided he'd rather spend the afternoon sleeping in the sun. She cast a glance at my messenger bag. But wow, you look like you're almost done. You must have had a tough afternoon. I chuckled awkwardly. I'm really tired, and to be honest, I'm starved. How about we stop for a late lunch together? My belly protested in all its overindulgence. But while I had been spending the afternoon eating and socializing, May had been working uninterruptedly. I could hardly reject her offer by confessing that I had eaten 2 full lunches. You know what? I'd love to, it's just... She stared at me hopefully. I've been feeling a little nauseous today, lately. I'm going to finish my work quickly before going to bed. But please eat something for my sake. You're ill? A concerned expression had come over her. Nauseous? It could be a fever. You better hurry home quickly. Let me deliver the rest of your papers. No, I can't let you do that. I could feel the blood rushing to my head. No, I'm fine. Hard work will set me free. Bent over in shame, I hurried towards the last mailboxes of the day. In the months leading up to the finals, the school days were short and filled with repetition. Spring has come early this year. Look outside, the tilia are building, but it won't last long until, if we have a cold spell in April, new foliage will freeze to death. Nature punishes presumptuousness harshly. She turned away from the window. But anyway, the 2 of you did a great job last Saturday. I'll need you to keep up that attitude over the coming weeks. weeks, as the electoral campaigns will start next Wednesday. Although we're just a weekly paper, we're the only dedicated news source this town has. That means whenever something big happens down here, our reporting will be the focus of all the national media. If something big happens, these elections are a chance for the Sunday Abbot to break into the national highlights, so I'll need you at your sharpest. She let out a giggle. And you should hear this. Currently, the party's in the process of announcing their leaders, candidates. Lock 05, the town's second party, just published a press release this morning. They have been in trouble lately. Abuse charge. He hasn't been convicted yet, but it's a bad luck for them. Ahead of the coming elections, Lock 05 is searching frantically. I am running out of breath. Just take a look at who they've been. Something. Oh my god, I met this person. She ran to release the phone. I immediately recognized the accompanying photograph. I coughed. A person with no experience at all. Apparently she just graduated from law school, dabbled a little in student politics, and she did some modeling work. I mean, she is pretty. Then again, everyone I've met so far in this game is pretty. I couldn't think of a more incompetent candidate. But let's not be too quick to write her off. Hey, are you sure that's her? She looks an awful like someone I crossed paths with last Saturday. Crossed path with? I think so, but she didn't strike me as the type to lead a political movement, if you know what I mean. What was her name again? Marissa? Marissa Roosevelt. Her name is in the press release. And you're saying you ran into her. Maybe she was in town for deliberations. She'll probably move here sometime soon. You need to be a legal resident of Absu to run for office. I smiled. She has an apartment already, though I'm not sure she's fully aware of its location. Ina ignored my remark. From the sound of her right index finger rapidly tapping against the skirt, I could tell that she was coming up with a scheme. She turned to me with a serious expression in her eyes. I think this could be a good thing, Abe. This year I want to take a deep dive into individual campaigns. Flag 05 movement has been on the rise for a good number of years. Politics are popular under a large selection of disenfranchised voters. Some voices speculate that they could even form a sincere challenge to the political establishment over town. I want to kick off the campaign season with an extra thick edition of the Sunday Abbot, providing an overview of all contesting parties. At extra thick, my shoulder felt cramped the last Saturday. I want in-depth interviews with the leading candidates of every party. I can interview the town mayor and the smaller opposition leaders. But I'd like you to interview Marissa. I swallowed. An interview? Me? Yeah, you. It sounds like you have one foot in the door for already. We can't let an opportunity like this go to waste. So will you conduct this interview for me? Okay. Oh, I can resize it like that. I was just trying to figure out how to make a save. That works.